A new trade show reappraises the job of Harry Burton, who photographed the 10 years long Tutankhamun earthwork. The gallery is a remarkable recording of an innovative time in our research of the history. It was one of the largest wonderful archaeological show of the 20th age. But which was it loved to at first spot a objective lens in the 3,000-year-old grave of Tsar Tutankhamun? How job bring down to Harry Burton? He took more than rather than 3,400 photographic of the treasures unsecured by Egyptologist Howard Wagner in a 10 years long inquiry of the renowned website. Currently, Burton's photos, lot previous unedited, are on Shaw at Cambridge College. Professor Christine Riggs is the at first to research the gallery in its completeness. Of the prints, negatives and waste, she says how enchanting new grounds on the remarkable opening, done in 1922, include started to come. By studying the photographic how did not do the cut-off, near such reproducible and wide distributed through the 1920s, new data is driven to lighting. One day we begin thought on the facility, an essentially uneven set of relationships in that the archaeology took location, keys difficult to see photographic in any type inert path, she explains. Though advertised as depiction the time Wagner found the fabulous grave, the image over was in fact undertaken above a year after, in January 1924. By the period, excavators had demolished the side dividing the graves at first chamber of the funeral camera, that Wagner is seen looking in. Yet, told Professor Riggs, the photo lets us think how Wagner is staring immediately at thing though more than beautiful, thing how nearly seems to shine of during. Which is not obvious to the accidental watcher is how Wagner is looking via two sets of doorways to the king coffins. The photo is thoroughly staged, on to Professor Riggs. Burton's Egyptian assistants would include detained reflectors to rebound lighting to build an impact how Wagner oneself named a mystical lilac shine. More than rather than 100 men, boys and girls were employed to dig and shoot land of the opening website. The photo of May 1923 shows the difficult job of driving crates of artifacts of the grave in the Vale of the Royal to the Nile inland city of Luxor, nearly 6 miles off. By the government canal boat would transportation the gem goods, by guardsmen, downriver to come at the Antiquities Museum in Cairo. The travel one would get 2 days in sultry 38°C, 100°F, warmth. A easy railing path was utilized to shove the crates on. Sections could be raised and delayed, to do the transport facilitating. In the warmth, Wagner told the path railway track were almost too hot to concern. Decorated in semi-precious stone and encrusted in elaborately cut window, Tutankhamun's gold mumia face mask was photographed by Burton in December 1925. He took more than rather than 20 pictures of the face mask, hard to capture each corner and prospect following Wagner had consumable weeks removal a difficult tar how would include been filled above the mumia as portion of old Egyptian sectarian ritualistic. Several of the photographic were invisible by the social since they were undertaken rigorously for use by archaeologists. The image over shows the Tsar's mummified chief propped up on an old lath of timber in a brush knob. The brush has been disguised out in ribbon. Photographic of this boy Tsar's chief were not published everywhere before the 1960s, while the at first Big Tut-themed Shaw took location in Paris. The previous unedited adverse shows several of Burton's method. A woodbed of the grave is photographed in front line of a white's background detained upward by 2 Egyptian boys. One of these assistants is fair apparent on the leftward. Professor Riggs told the boys would include shocked the background as the photo was undertaken. The would include provided it came out blurred time the bed was stored excellently in attention by the chamber on its rack. Harry Burton, the son of a office maker, took up photo time in Florence. Down there, he met a really rich mentioned Theodore Davis, who had a special desire for financing excavations in Egypt. As WWI began, Davis was closed-eye, but suggested Burton to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, who later involved him in Egypt. More than insights in the earthwork history can be gleaned of the never-before-printed adverse of a boy and his hard pearl necklace. thou can see the nerves or stress in the person of an Egyptian little boy, who was dressed up to carry one of the hard-o necklaces of the grave, explainable Professor Riggs. In after year, a man of a guideline regional household, Sheikh Hussein Abd El Rasul, identified oneself as the boy in the photo. Present, prints can be seen suspended in the visitor building how Sheikh Hussein belonging close the Ramesseum Shrine, the formidable monumentality facility devoted to the Ram of Kop Ramesses II. Several of the largest remarkable photographic Shah family, elderly 6 and 7, making hard labor at the period, he's kind of undertaken for given, told Professor Riggs, who is affiliate to the College of East Anglia, UEA. Prints of Burtons Photographic were a considerable portion of the Egyptomania of the 1920s and report our charm in the old civilization present. This opening of Tutankhamun was a strong character to lot Egyptians, of the awakening of their own nation, and the Egyptian antiquities authorities insisted on their order to hold the grave objects in Egypt, told Professor Riggs. But in 1929, while it became precise the museum would not get a stake, it intended how all of Burton's job had substantially been for complimentary. Waggoner gave the New York Museum several of the photographic instead of. Few human beings aware present how the opening of the grave became a policy flash temperature among Britain and the again freelance Egyptian by the government, Professor Riggs added. By vision all of Harry Burton's images, consisting several shooting by Egyptian archaeologists whose names were not identified in the albums, the UEA Academia has been capable to unpick the key Egyptian deposit to the draft, and to decrypt several of the option how were done indecisive which to photo, and how photo became the ideally way to try to recording which archaeology was making, told Professor Riggs. I expect it helps us see the Egyptian deposit how hasn't been aforementioned quite, hasn't been recognized.